Hello there, welcome to episode 72 of Nevermind the Bullens. I'm Mike Peters, this is your bite-sized Everton podcast and vodcast. 72, also a reference to the number of glasses of wine I drank to get through last night's match. That has nothing to do with me sounding like I do right now. That's just a cold, the latest in a series of colds that I'm fighting on all fronts. At least somebody's fighting on all fronts, because Everton don't seem to be able to do it. So if you do want any new perfume voiceovers done, now's the time to ask me. Maybe capitulation for men, then the voice is absolutely perfect for that, because I think this might be another extended edition. I should warn you, after episode 70 in the analysis of the Watford debacle, because we managed to pick up almost inexplicably where we left off at the end of that game last night. And yet again, we seem to do this every autumn. We did it last year under Carlo Ancelotti, where we set off like a train at the start of the season, won our opening 4 matches, looked brilliant, we're top of the league, and then went to Southampton, lost, and then lost our next couple after that as well. And just the wheels seem to come off. It's like a clown car with Everton, and we seem to do it every single year. And watching the game last night, particularly the first half, which was just rank, you might have guessed I'm quite annoyed after last night's performance, because it's not a one-off, it's a series. It's it might just under Rafa Benitez. This goes back years with some of these players, and it speaks to a sort of a deeper truth and a deeper issue, a fundamental issue almost within the club and within the psyche of the club, and particularly within the psyche of the playing staff. And when are we going to actually address this? Because I looked at it, I'm thinking this is a throwback to some of the stuff we watched under Marco Silva, where you're thinking, what's the plan here? What are we trying to do? It was when you've got open, I'd say revolt might be a strong word, but players publicly questioning each other and frantically pointing fingers 15 minutes into a Premier League match, you know something's not right. For the record, I don't think the fault lies with Rafa Benitez. I don't think obviously fault does lie with him in terms of the personnel that he picked and the system, but I think the problem is not going to be solved by sacking him. I think that's it, baby out with the bathwater scenario. I'm absolutely not sort of espousing that at all, but we need to find what on earth is going on, because the disconnect between the defenders and the midfield was absolutely remarkable. Now, Jean-Philippe Gbamin, it was great to see him playing, but there's no good playing him if he's not ready. Now, I know that we can't make a judgment on him because we need to see him play 10 or 15 games in a row. Whether we'll ever see that, who knows? But I was pleased that he started, because that's a £25 million footballer we've got there, and we need to try and utilise him. We can't afford to continually be wasting money. And a lot of time to think about the amount of money that has been wasted. And I have talked about this before. And he's a bête noire of this podcast because he gives me so much material. But Alex Iwobi, yet again, last night, actually had me telling him to go forth and multiply. I screamed at the television midway through eating my Chinese takeaway. And my other half sat next to me. She didn't understand why I was getting so cross. Text me brother, who I know listens to this podcast, and I told him that I told Iwobi to do one. He knew exactly the moment that I was talking about, and it was about 20 minutes from the end. The ball goes down the right-hand side, and he's got a 70-30 there. He can win that ball easily, and he somehow managed to not only not win it, get bypassed by the Wolves player who won the ball from him in a challenge that he should never have lost. And then it went past Seamus Coleman as well. And I'm thinking, right, it's simply not good enough. In the first 15, 20 minutes, I don't think he had a touch. Richarlison and Damari Gray, I don't think had a touch. We were so on the defensive. And Wolves, to be fair to them, played well, thoroughly deserved the win. There is absolutely no qualms there. But we made it so easy for them. With the lack of, a system and just a lack of adaptation. You could see what was coming before the half an hour's out. And I think at first half hour, I'm thinking, do you know what? He needs to make a change here. Be proactive. Don't wait. Because the game was over by half time. When we were 2 down, you're thinking there's no chance of us getting back. I saw a stat this morning on Opta, which suggested that it says that we have never, ever won a Premier League match when we've been 2 goals down at half time. I think it's happened 70 times which is a damning statistic in itself. But we've managed to draw 5 of those games and lose the other 65. Now, coming back from 2 goals down is difficult. I acknowledge that for any team, but that's a terrible indictment of Everton's lack of fortitude and just throwing in the towel at half-time. They can't even, even if they'd managed to draw 20 of those games and win 10, draw 20 and lose 40, you could go, yeah, that's fine. But to have never won 1 and only drawn 5 of them is pathetic. Now, generally I try to be pragmatic on this podcast, but I'm looking at that team last night and I'm thinking, how many of them do we really want to really see in the future? I know we're missing some big players, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin made a big statement with those big lapels he was wearing on Sky last night. I did have somebody who sent me a meme this morning that suggested that he looked like Ted Bovis from Heidi High, Paul Shane for the uninitiated, and I thought, oh yeah, that's very good, it was very funny. That was one moment of amusement in a fairly dreadful Monday evening, but still. Yeah, we're missing him. We're missing Yerry Mina. And obviously Yerry Mina, who I've always been a bit not always been a bit unsure about, but certainly for his first 18 months with the club, I just thought, I don't think he's quite what, I just didn't trust him. But the statistics of when he's with us and when he's not playing are damning. Mason Holgate is coming last night. There's so many players off the boil at the minute. Mason Holgate, I'm not sure that he's ever gonna. He's flattered to deceive. He's been really good for a period. I'm trying to think. I don't think it was last season. He was poor last season. It was the season before last. He was good, and then he's been poor now for a year and a half. And he made some really silly challenges. The challenge that where there was the debate in the second half about whether it was a penalty or whether it was outside the box. Either way, it was an absolutely dreadful challenge. Ben Godfrey makes a poor mistake last night. Gives away the second goal. He's clearly not the player we saw last season. I have complete confidence that he will get back to that level. He's starting to get there, but that was a horrible, horrible error. Michael Keane, I wonder whether... I've talked about him before in terms of being a confidence player, but I just wonder whether he is the answer long-term for us. We signed him 4 years ago. I don't think he's any better now than he was when we signed him. He's been on the cusp of the England squad, and I think there are other players, Ben Godfrey for one, who have gone screaming past him. He's not improved. He's flatlined. And I'm looking at that squad going, right, who do we build the team around for the next generation? Because Rafa Benitez talked in his pre-match comments about, that I saw, talked about January. We've got 2 months to get through before that. We've got some massive games, starting with Tottenham on Sunday, obviously. They'll have Antonio Conte in. They will get a reaction. I have no doubt about that. We're on a hiding to nothing. Then we've got City coming up. We've got Arsenal. We've got Liverpool. There are big, big games coming up. And I'm thinking, we're already 10th now. We've dropped off the pace. We've got to get ourselves back on the cusp of the top 4 if we won last night. Not that I think we are that good, but still... I'm thinking, well, where's the next win coming from at this rate? Because I just don't see it coming in the next couple of games, the way we are playing at the minute, until we get those players back. Now, a team shorn of probably 3 of its key players starting at 11, the spine of its team really is going to struggle. I mentioned this in episode 70, the amount of sort of first teamers that we are missing. And it says all that we bring Fabian Delph on, who's one of those that, a player that we signed that could have been great. It was a gamble. It hasn't really worked. But he was better and certainly more proactive and certainly was more vocal than Jean-Philippe Gbamin. Alan played further forward, was much better second half. And he's a curious one as well for me, Alan. I just didn't... He was so off it. He just didn't screen, didn't give the back four any protection in that first half last night. And I'm just thinking, well, what's the game plan here? So is he now playing as a number 8? He played second half. Is that the position that we need to play him in for the next few weeks until Abdoulaye Doucouré is fit again? I think it might be. If he's fit enough to start on Sunday, Delph, play him. Get an hour out of him and then get Tom Davies on. If that's what we have to do, that is what we have to do. I look at Seamus Coleman, and Seamus to a degree sort of embodies the frustration. If you're there against Watford, you saw the clear anger from him in the way that we performed and the way that we capitulated. And he's trying to articulate, and he clearly understands the fans' frustration. He clearly frustrated last night, that thing where he booted the ball into the hoarding early on, and he's arguing with his teammates. He is as frustrated as we are. And I think as well, he's partly frustrated with his own form. and his own inability, because there's no question that he is nowhere near the player that he was before he broke his leg. And I'm just wondering, is it we have to make that decision now? There are players there that are we're carrying too many passengers. I think Michael Keane is one of them. I'm going to put my head above the parapet. I think Luca Dean's been dreadful this season, but I still think he's a quality player. Mason Holgate, to me, not good enough. Seamus Coleman, not good enough. Alex Iwobi has never been good enough. Gabamin, no idea, but he's got to be given a run of games to try and see if he is good enough. Allen lacks pace. Tom Davis, not good enough. Andros Townsend was better yesterday, but he's clearly not a long-term solution. He started the season really well, put some good balls in, and it says to everything. Where I thought actually the man to bring on was Cenk Tosun, because I just thought actually Richarlison wasn't holding the ball up. We needed somebody to be able to hit as we were going more direct in the second half, and I thought actually Tosun I would rather get on, because I think if we get one chance with him, in the last 5-10 minutes, he's a much better finisher than Rondon is. And I thought that's where we're going. A guy that is flattered to deceive. We've had him out on loan. He's clearly not been wanted at the club for a couple of years now. And yet I'm thinking, he's the best bet to bring on. With 10, 15, I'm thinking 20 minutes to go, I wanted him to come on. I thought that says everything about where that squad is currently at and the amount of major surgery that needs to be done to it. And the issue I have is that the players that I've mentioned, the key players, Mina, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Luca Dean, how long are they going to stick around and play in a mid-table team? Jordan Pickford as well. How long are they going to stick around and play in a mid-table team with some of the rubbish that they're carrying next to them? It's just... I really, really worry. I'm not one for knee-jerking or panicking, but this is a much more deeper and more long-held sort of decline or flatlining or plateauing of our recruitment, of coaching, of attitude, and it has to be sorted. I don't care. I mean, I'm sat here wearing an England cricket top, one thing I'm actually proud of at the minute that I support, and I'm looking at Yorkshire. And all the issues that they're having and the complete bungling they've made of this Azim Rafiq case. It's an absolute disaster from top to bottom. And, suggesting that they've reviewed things and root and branch reviews are needed and all the rest of it. I'm thinking that's exactly what needs to happen with Everton. There needs to be a root and branch internal review of recruitment, of the dialogue that occurs between the director of football, since we've had a director of football in the club in the last 5 years, and the coaching staff and the manager, in terms of recruitment, in terms of financing, in terms of who is signing the players. Because clearly something is very, very broken within that. And we saw the end game of that with the lack of recruitment in the summer, or the fact that Rafa Benitez had his hands completely tied. Now, I think he has to be given the benefit of the doubt. You can't change it overnight. He's tried to get rid of some players. We've got rid of some. But a lot of those players are players that were signed, obviously, by previous managers, but for a huge amount of money and huge wages, and have been only marginal successes or failures. You'd go back now to since Fahad Moshiri's come in, and I can't, he puts the money in. He's made some mistakes in terms of managerial appointments. He's refused to take advice from people. But ultimately, Everton is his baby, therefore he can do with it what he wants. But looking at the money that he's put into transfers, we've spent £500 million out there or thereabouts over the last 5 years since he came in, and we are no further forward now than we were when he came in. The amount of players that we have signed who have just been complete wastes of money, and we could sit here for half an hour discussing them at length. You don't need me to tell you who they are. You know who they are. When does that stop? When do we get a structure in place within the club that actually gets these things 90% of the time at least correct? Because we haven't had that. So what is it? Is it the people that we've got there? Is it the way that structure is functioning? Because something is seriously amiss, and Everton needs to review this internally. I don't care what the outcome of it is, as long as I don't need to know what the outcome is. We don't need to know what the outcome is, as long as we see the outcome being better football on the pitch and winning football matches and a better atmosphere amongst the fans. That's what we want. End of. It's the top and bottom of it. So that is absolutely needing to be happening. Will it happen? If it does, when will it happen? I don't know. The simple fact is I'm fearing for the next couple of months, if that is the squad that's going to carry us through till January, we are going to be in the lower reaches of the table and going to have an awful long way to go in January to get in terms of trying to get players in and trying to get ourselves up the league. And it rules out any chance of us getting in Europe this season. All we can hope for is a cup run. That's the way I feel right now. Feel free to let me know how you feel at NMTBpod on Twitter, nmtbpod@gmail.com on the email. You can leave me a voice note via the description on the podcast. And until next time, this has been a top content production. I shall be back after the Tottenham game. Let's keep the faith. Come on, you Blues.